Of all the characters on Teen Wolf, Lydia definitely got the worst deal when her Banshee kicked in.
Well, is anyone gonna get me a coat?
Basically, you get these crazy making noises in your head. Half the time, it's a name that sound guessing game. Is that insects? Is it power lines? Is it both? The only thing we know for sure is you will not figure out what it is until it's pretty much too late.
It's like it's on the tip of my tongue, and I don't know how to trigger it.
I really think they should know. Yes, I do. One of them is standing right behind me.
The rest of the time, Banshees get a bunch of low-volume mumble voices. It's like that old song, whispering voices, too many choices, if, why, when, what. Ugh. The fact that this incoherent cacophony is often babbling on about people you know dying, well, that's just the non-dairy whipped topping on this putrid parfait of a power set.
I can hear them. They scream.
Why do they scream?
They scream when someone's about to die.
And that is only when you can actually understand what they're trying to tell you, which you mostly cannot do. Yes, the Banshee in this universe can scream someone else's head off. But how often are you going to use that in daily life? No, the Banshee experience is just way too crazy making. It's why every single one on the show except Lydia was severely mentally unstable. Lydia is the exception to the bonkers Banshee rule, but don't get me started on how it basically ruined her love life. The question of who is and who is not a supernatural creature on Teen Wolf was at the heart of the early episodes in Season 5, and raised some serious questions about the nature of Lydia Martin's abilities. When they captured Tracy the Canema in the episode Dreamcatchers, resident druid Dr. Deaton cast a circle of mountain ash to keep her contained. We've seen mountain ash stop everything from werewolves to Oni. It's the go-to supernatural repellent of the Teen Wolf universe. So it came as a shock to everyone when Tracy woke up and jumped right over what should have been an almost impossible to break mystical barrier.
So if Tracy was able to cross the mountain ash, and no one supernatural can do that. Tracy's not supernatural. Exactly.
In Tracy's case, she could cross because she was a manufactured creature, a chimera created by the Dread Doctors. But Deaton's declaration that nothing supernatural could pass brought up a new question. What about Lydia? The Beacon Hills Banshee never had any trouble with the mystical roadblock, so fans wondered, is this a production screw-up, a plot hole, or was something else going on? I reached out to Teen Wolf creator and executive producer Jeff Davis for a definitive answer, but it turns out fans weren't the only ones wondering about Lydia's nature. Jeff says the writers debated the Lydia Mountain Ash question too. He says they decided that Lydia is not supernatural by nature. She has inherited abilities that allow her to access the supernatural. The same goes for other Banshees, like Lydia's grandmother and Meredith Walker. To be clear, this only applies to Banshees in the Teen Wolf universe. Other shows have other rules for their special characters. Jeff Davis says that while Lydia always had the Banshee gift inside her, it didn't manifest until Peter Hale bit her at the end of Season 1. Her heredity gave her immunity from the bite, while the bite put the spark to her latent abilities. Lydia can do all sorts of cool things as a Banshee, but she is not supernatural.
You think power like that was gonna come out on its own? I'm the spark that lit your fire, sweetheart.
I used this quote in another video this week, and it struck me how misinterpreted that it's been over the years. Yes, Peter did brutally attack Lydia and embed memories in her that caused her dormant Banshee abilities to flare up. But it was the trauma of that event that triggered her. It was not the bite. It was not Peter's spark trying to make a new werewolf. Trauma makes Banshees more powerful. We saw it at least 3 times, maybe 4 times on the show. First, we had Lydia's story where Peter used her and her latent Banshee as a backup plan in case he died. You can see how this trauma played out right there on Lydia's face. This is why her abilities began to grow. Lydia's grandmother, Lorraine, was the same way. For much of her life, she just had little intuitions. But an upcoming personal trauma, the death of her partner, Maddie, triggered her first and, for a while, her only true Banshee experience with seeing future death. Now, after that experience, she hunted for clues about herself and her limited foreknowledge, which kind of drove her crazy. Lorraine never had Banshee-level power until after she was committed to Icon, and they drilled a hole in her head. The physical and emotional trauma literally opened her up, and she developed abilities so strong she was able to predict the entire benefactor plan and all the individuals who would be in danger from it years in advance. She didn't realize that she was in effect creating the benefactor victims list at the time, but she knew her granddaughter would be in the middle of it and tried to plan accordingly.
They're coming, Lydia. They're coming for all of us.
We saw that a hole in Lydia's skull had the same effect, but it was greatly amplified by further tampering and pain visited on her by Dr. Valak. This show makes it clear that trauma brings out the abilities of Banshee. Meredith's experience in the White Room amplified her power. And it could be argued that losing her whole town and being the only one left behind by the Ghost Riders in Canaan was enough trauma to trigger Lenore's true Banshee. While Lydia ranks as average in durability and strength, she more than makes up for it with intelligence and superhuman abilities. Lydia was already a genius before her Banshee abilities allowed her to glimpse the future. As she learned to harness those skills, her scream rose to an earth-shattering level, allowing her to punch way harder than any other character. Intelligence pretty much towers above everything else on Teen Wolf because smart characters overcome brute strength almost every time on this show. Being physically strong is great when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, but it has never been the deciding factor in defeating a big bad on Teen Wolf. So yeah, brute strength doesn't make you powerful on this show.